day that has been awaited for so long, whether we did not know first whether the president was going to be going to The Hague or not, and now the day was finally here. It is done, dusted, and over with.
And yet we still don't know what the fate of this case is. Will it be terminated or not? Of course, that's the question that everyone is still asking. Today, both sides gave their story and what they thought was going on, with the prosecution, of course, giving their argument there and saying that this, well, is really a case that relies on evidence that they can't seem to find. Well, we're going live to The Hague now, where Edith Kimani has been all day. Edith, can you tell us, what has the day been like for you right there where all the action is?
Well, the day has been full of excitement, Nancy. You can't tell right now, behind me, the court very quiet. In fact, if anyone around this area was at work and came in after 2 p.m., they would not have been able to believe the kind of madness, for lack of a better word, that happened earlier in the day. But inside the court, things were relatively quiet. No one was president. No one had a big title. It was simply a question of the accused, the defense, and the victims' representatives. And that's what Sam Ogina has for us today, the details of what happened inside the courtroom.
International Criminal Court is now in session.
His appearance was a must-show for the status conference on cooperation between the country and the ICC Prosecution's Office. But Uhuru Kenyatta left all the talking to his defense counsel. The president's defense team was point-blank saying the prosecution will not receive any additional evidence and that it has reviewed its cooperation with Fatou Bensouda's office.
I have drawn a line in the sand. I do not have to provide any further evidence. We, in many respects, have not had trust in the court and the prosecution.
The prosecution held that the case should be adjourned indefinitely, and Kenya reported to the Assembly of State Parties to be compelled to give evidence, a move contested by the defense team.
This case should be adjourned rather than withdrawn.
Adjourn in order to give the Assembly of States Parties the opportunity to exhaust its own procedures in order to see if it can bring compliance by the government of Kenya.
He is entitled to his verdict of not guilty, and so when I say there is no evidence, I say deliberately there is no evidence, because if there was evidence, we would have a trial.
The prosecution team maintained that Uhuru's phone and financial records are crucial factors if submitted, and that Uhuru used a phone number with 891 as the last digits to communicate with the former Naivasha MP just before the Naivasha violence. But the prosecution claims the data on outgoing calls on Uhuru's phone number had been destroyed.
The interests of the accused alone do not trump all others.
In the absence of the kind of confirmation which might have been provided if the government of Kenya had abided by its treaty duties, the prosecution recognizes that it cannot take the case forward.
The case was brought after an investigation and evidence produced, which came from the national sources.
Nonetheless, it was the prosecution's admission that Uhuru did not obstruct justice by impeding government submission of evidence, but that as a president he can influence the transmittal of the required evidence.
There is no evidence of any action or inaction that he has taken or refrained from in the course of the period between our request for cooperation and today.
A price must be paid for the fact that the prosecution does not have the evidence that it needs. But in this case, who should pay that price? Should it be the victims, whose quest for justice has been cruelly frustrated both in Kenya and before this court? Or should it be the accused, who is the principal author of the deadlock in this case?
The trial judges will rule on whether to terminate the case or adjourn the case indefinitely until the prosecution receives further evidence as it requires in the Uhuru case. Meanwhile, the president jets back early Wednesday morning to a big reception organized by his office. Sam Ogina, KTN.